The rain hammered against the cracked window of Comfort's one-room apartment in Lagos, matching the rhythm of her racing heart. Her fingers trembled over the worn laptop keyboard, the screen's blue light casting shadows across her exhausted face. 26 years old, and already drowning in a nightmare she never imagined possible. Her younger brother's hospital bills sat on the table beside her, numbers so large they seemed fictional. Leukemia. Stage 3. The doctors had given him 6 months without treatment. Treatment that cost more than she could earn in 5 years working at the call center. That's when she'd created her. Amara Okonkwo. Successful art gallery owner. Educated in London. Sophisticated. Everything Comfort wasn't. The profile picture wasn't even hers, a beautiful model she'd found online, someone whose life sparkled with the privileges Comfort could only dream about. She hadn't meant for it to go this far. The messages had started innocently enough on the international networking app. A comment on a business article. A polite exchange about investment opportunities. Then somehow she'd been talking to him. Kong Min-jun, CEO of Hanseong Industries, one of the most powerful conglomerates in South Korea. And he'd been kind. Funny. Unexpectedly vulnerable beneath the polished exterior the world saw. When he'd offered to invest in Amara's gallery, Comfort had felt sick with guilt. But her brother's labored breathing on the phone, the way her mother cried herself to sleep every night, it pushed her forward. Just this once. Just enough to save Emmanuel. She'd accepted $50,000. The money had bought 6 months of life. 6 months of watching her brother smile again, of seeing hope return to her mother's eyes. 6 months of messages with Min-jun that had somehow become the brightest part of her days, even as the lies grew heavier. He talked about the loneliness of his position, the weight of expectations, the arranged marriage his family was pressuring him into. And she, pretending to be someone else entirely, had listened, comforted, understood. Then came the message that shattered everything. I'm coming to Lagos next month for business. I can't wait to finally meet you in person. Min-jun said. Comfort's world tilted. Her hands went numb. The laptop screen blurred as panic seized her chest. She had 2 weeks to disappear or face the consequences of her deception. The black Mercedes looked obscenely expensive parked outside her apartment building. Comfort watched from her window as the driver opened the rear door, and a man stepped out, tall, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her annual rent. Kong Min-jun. Her blood turned to ice. He shouldn't be here. Not at this address. Not looking for her. She'd sent Amara's regrets, claimed a family emergency, tried to vanish into the digital void. But somehow, he'd found her anyway. The knock on her door was firm. Authoritative. Final. Comfort's hands shook as she opened it, and for a moment, they simply stared at each other. His expression was unreadable, sharp, intelligent eyes taking in everything. Her threadbare clothes. The peeling paint. The hospital bills still scattered on her table. Miss Comfort Adeyemi, he said, his accent crisp and precise. Or should I call you Amara? Her knees nearly buckled. I can explain. You're not who you claimed to be. He stepped inside without invitation, his presence filling the small room. You used a fake identity. Accepted money under false pretenses. In most countries, that's called fraud. My brother was dying, Comfort whispered, tears burning her eyes. I didn't know what else to do. I'll pay you back. Every cent. I swear. With what money? His gaze was cold now, businesslike. You work at a call center making minimal wage. Your mother cleans offices. The hospital bills alone will take decades to repay, and that's before we discuss my investment. Shame flooded through her. Then turn me in. Call the police. I deserve it. Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, perhaps. He moved to the window, hands clasped behind his back, silent for a long moment. I've been investigating you for the past week, he finally said. Your real identity. Your situation. Your family. Do you know what I discovered? She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Intelligence. Resourcefulness. Desperation born of love, not greed. He turned to face her. And messages that, despite being built on lies, contained more honesty than most conversations I've had in years. Comfort blinked, confused. I don't understand. I have a problem, Miss Adeyemi. My family wants me married to consolidate a business merger. My investors are concerned about my personal life affecting my judgment. And I have exactly 6 months to convince everyone that I'm settled, stable, and ready to lead this company into the next generation. He pulled a document from his jacket, placing it on her table. You catfished a billionaire. I'm offering you a way to make it right without destroying your life, or your brother's chance at survival. The contract was 47 pages long. Comfort read it 3 times, each word more surreal than the last. Her hands left fingerprints on the expensive paper as reality fractured around her. You want me to pretend to be your fiancé? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. For 1 year, Minjun confirmed, seated across from her with unsettling calmness. You'll live in Seoul. Attend events. Meet my family. Convince investors, media, and the board of directors that we're madly in love. In exchange, your debts are erased. Your brother receives the best medical care available. And at the end of the contract, you walk away with enough money to build whatever life you choose. And if I refuse? His expression didn't change. I file charges. You face trial for fraud and embezzlement. Your family loses everything trying to defend you. Your brother's treatment stops. It wasn't a choice. It was a gilded cage with invisible bars. Why me? Comfort demanded, anger cutting through fear. You could hire any actress, any model. Because you already know me. The admission seemed to cost him something. Those conversations weren't entirely false, were they? You listened. Understood. Responded with genuine empathy, even while lying about everything else. She thought about the late-night messages. His confession about feeling trapped in his own success. Her truthful words wrapped in a fake identity. The connection that had felt more real than anything else in her life. And because you have everything to lose, he continued quietly. Which means you'll be motivated to succeed. My family is difficult. The media is relentless. This arrangement requires someone who can think quickly, adapt, and most importantly, someone who won't actually fall in love with me. The last words struck oddly, tinged with something that might have been bitterness. Comfort looked at the contract again. At the numbers that would save Emmanuel. At the clause that promised her freedom after 12 months. At the man who held her entire future in his hands. 1 year, she said finally. And then I'm free. 1 year, he agreed. She picked up the pen with shaking fingers and signed her name, sealing a bargain that felt like either salvation or damnation. Minjun collected the contract, his expression unreadable. A car will collect you and your family tomorrow. Your brother will be transferred to Seoul National University Hospital immediately. You'll have 3 days to prepare before we make our first public appearance. He moved toward the door, then paused. One more thing, Miss Adeyemi. In public, you'll call me Minjun. You'll smile. You'll play the part of a woman hopelessly in love. But in private, remember this. We are nothing more than 2 people bound by necessity. Don't mistake contract intimacy for reality. After he left, Comfort sat in the darkness of her apartment, the scent of his expensive cologne still lingering. She'd catfished a billionaire to save her brother's life. Now she'd become the biggest catfish of all, pretending to love a man who'd bought her performance with a contract and the promise of freedom. Outside, the rain continued to fall, washing away the person she used to be. Seoul glittered like a city from a dream. Comfort pressed her face against the limousine window, watching skyscrapers pierce the clouds, neon signs painting the night in impossible colors. Beside her, Emmanuel slept peacefully for the first time in months, his small hand wrapped around their mother's. The medication from the new hospital was already working miracles. The price of those miracles sat across from her, Min-jun, engrossed in his tablet, his face illuminated by the cold blue light. He hadn't spoken since they'd landed except to give instructions to his assistant. This is business, Comfort reminded herself. Nothing more. The penthouse apartment took her breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Han River. Marble floors reflected crystal chandeliers. Her entire apartment building could have fit in the living room. Your family will stay in the East Wing, Min-jun said, his tone professional. You'll have the West Wing. My bedroom is on the upper floor. We'll share common spaces when necessary for appearances. Where will I actually sleep? Comfort asked, suspicious. Your room. This arrangement doesn't include physical intimacy, Miss Adeyemi. Only the performance of it when cameras are present. A woman emerged from the hallway, elegant, middle-aged, with eyes that assessed Comfort like a general surveying a battlefield. This is Mrs. Song, my head of household, Min-jun introduced. She'll help you prepare for tomorrow's announcement. The announcement. Their engagement. The lie that would be broadcast across Asia. Mrs. Song's smile was polite but cool. We have much work to do. Your wardrobe, deportment, basic Korean phrases, the story of how you met. We met through business connections, Min-jun interrupted smoothly. Comfort impressed me with her intelligence and grace. The rest developed naturally. Keep it simple. Vague details are harder to contradict. After he left, Mrs. Song led Comfort to a bedroom larger than her entire former apartment. Racks of designer clothes lined one wall. A team of stylists waited. Mr. Kong has specific expectations, Mrs. Song said, her voice softening slightly. His family is traditional. His mother will test you. His younger sister will resent you. The media will hunt for any weakness. Why are you telling me this? Comfort asked. Because despite what you may think, I care about Mr. Kang's well-being. Mrs. Song's gaze was steady. He's a good man trapped in a ruthless world. Whatever your reasons for being here, try not to hurt him more than necessary. The words haunted Comfort as stylists transformed her appearance. Designer dress. Professional makeup. Hair styled into elegant waves. When she looked in the mirror, a stranger stared back, someone who might actually belong in Kong Min-jun's world. But inside, she was still the girl from Lagos who'd lied to save her brother. The press conference was scheduled for noon. Min-jun appeared at her door at 11, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her previous year's salary. His eyes widened fractionally when he saw her. You look appropriate, he said finally. You look like you're about to execute someone, she replied before she could stop herself. The corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Close. I'm about to convince Korea's most cynical journalists that I've fallen desperately in love. Are you ready to lie to the world, Miss Adeyemi? Comfort thought about Emmanuel, laughing in his hospital bed that morning. About her mother's tears of gratitude. About the contract that bound them together. I've been lying for months, she said quietly. What's one more performance? In the car, Min-jun briefed her tersely. Hold my hand. Smile when I smile. If anyone asks about your background, redirect to our emotional connection. You're a private person. We want to keep some things sacred. And your family? His jaw tightened. They'll hate you. Not personally, they'd hate anyone I chose independently. You're disrupting their plans. The press room was packed. Cameras flashed like lightning as they entered. Min-jun's hand found hers, warm, steady, and entirely for show. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, his voice carrying authority. I'd like to introduce someone very important to me. This is Comfort Adeyemi, and I've asked her to be my wife. The room erupted. Questions shouted in Korean and English. Cameras pressed closer. Minjun's grip tightened on her hand, a lifeline in the chaos. A reporter thrust a microphone forward. Mr. Kong, this seems sudden. How long have you known Miss Adeyemi? Long enough to know she's extraordinary, Minjun said, and to Comfort's shock, he looked at her with something that resembled genuine warmth. Sometimes you simply know when you've found the right person. Miss Adeyemi, how does it feel to be marrying one of Asia's most eligible bachelors? Comfort's heart pounded, but she forced a smile. Overwhelming. Wonderful. Minjun is brilliant and kind, and I feel incredibly fortunate. The lies tasted like ash, but they flowed smoothly. They'd practiced this. Rehearsed every gesture, every response. What they hadn't rehearsed was the moment Minjun turned to her, his hand cupping her face with surprising gentleness, his eyes asking a silent question. Then he kissed her, softly, briefly, perfectly calculated for the cameras. But for just a second, as his lips brushed hers, something flickered in his expression. Surprise. Confusion. When they pulled apart, the room was going wild. The performance was flawless. So why did Comfort's heart race like it was real? The Kong family estate sprawled across acres of manicured gardens, traditional architecture blending seamlessly with modern luxury. Comfort's stomach churned as their car approached. This was the first real test, dinner with Minjun's family. Remember, he said quietly, straightening his tie, my mother will try to provoke you. Don't take the bait. My father will ignore you completely. That's actually a good sign. And my sister Ji-woo will likely be hostile. She's protective. Sounds delightful, Comfort muttered. His lips quirked slightly. Think of it as a performance. You've already convinced the media. This is just a smaller, more hostile audience. Mrs. Kong sat at the head of the table like a queen on her throne. Silver hair perfectly coiffed, jewelry that could fund a hospital wing, eyes sharp enough to cut glass. Minjun's father was distinguished and distant, barely acknowledging their arrival. Ji-woo, Minjun's younger sister, was beautiful and cold, her gaze raking over Comfort with undisguised contempt. So, Mrs. Kong said in English, her accent crisp, you're the woman who's captured my son's attention so suddenly. How? Unexpected. Mother, Minjun warned. I'm simply curious, darling. Mrs. Kang's smile was a weapon. Tell me, Comfort, such an unusual name, what does your family do? The trap was obvious. Comfort felt Minjun tense beside her, but she kept her voice steady. My mother works very hard to support our family. I'm proud of her strength. How admirable. And your education? I didn't attend university, Comfort said truthfully. But I believe education comes in many forms. Ji-woo laughed, sharp and cruel. How progressive. I'm sure the board of directors will find that fascinating when they question why their CEO is marrying someone with no credentials, no pedigree, no. Ji-woo. Minjun's voice cut like steel. That's enough. Is it? His sister leaned forward. We all know this is sudden. Suspiciously sudden. What aren't you telling us, Oppa? The room went silent. Even Mr. Kong looked up from his meal. Minjun's hand found Comfort's under the table, a gesture of solidarity she hadn't expected. I'm telling you that I found someone who sees me as more than a profit margin or a chess piece in corporate strategy. Someone genuine. If that's difficult for this family to understand, perhaps that says more about us than about her. Mrs. Kang's expression flickered. Surprise, then something that might have been hurt. We want what's best for you. Then trust my judgment. The tension stretched until Mr. Kong cleared his throat. The merger with Park Industries is proceeding as planned, Minjun finished smoothly. Mr. Park has already expressed his support for my engagement. He appreciates stability in business partners. It was a chess move, Comfort realized. Every word was strategy. After dinner, Ji-woo cornered Comfort in the hallway. Up close, her hostility was tinged with something else, concern. I don't know who you really are, she said quietly, but I know my brother. He doesn't do anything without reason. This engagement is convenient. Too convenient. Maybe he just fell in love, Comfort suggested. My brother doesn't fall in love. He calculates. Strategizes. Whatever deal you two have made, be careful. Min-jun protects what's his, but he also discards what's no longer useful. The warning hung in the air as Ji-woo walked away, leaving Comfort alone with her swirling thoughts. In the car ride home, Min-jun was silent, staring out at Seoul's glittering skyline. Your sister doesn't trust me, Comfort said. Ji-woo doesn't trust anyone. Our family doesn't exactly inspire faith in human connection. He turned to her, something unguarded in his expression. You handled them well. Better than I expected. I've dealt with difficult people before. I know. I read your employment history. 12 customer service commendations. 1 formal complaint from a supervisor who accused you of being too empathetic with callers. You argued with management to help a woman being scammed. He smiled faintly. You're a terrible liar, Comfort. Except when you're protecting someone you love. The observation unsettled her. He'd studied her. Learned her. Seen past the lies to something real. The contract is for 1 year, she reminded him, and herself. Yes, he agreed. 1 year. But neither of them looked away, and the space between them felt charged with something the contract hadn't accounted for. Outside, Seoul glowed with a million lights, each one a secret kept, a lie told, a truth waiting to be discovered. And somewhere in that vast city of strangers, 2 people bound by deception were beginning to wonder if the most dangerous lie was the one they kept telling themselves, that this was only business, and nothing more. 3 months into the contract, and Comfort's life had become a carefully choreographed dance. Morning strategy meetings with Min-jun's PR team. Afternoon charity events where she smiled for cameras. Evening galas where she wore diamonds and lies in equal measure. Through it all, Min-jun remained professionally cordial, a perfect partner in their elaborate deception. But something had shifted. She noticed it in small moments. The way his hand lingered on her back during photo opportunities. How he laughed, really laughed, at her dry observations about Seoul's elite. The coffee that appeared on her desk each morning, prepared exactly how she liked it, though she'd never told him her preferences. And the late nights. The contract had specified separate bedrooms, separate lives. But increasingly, Comfort found herself in Min-jun's study at midnight, both of them working on opposite sides of his massive desk. He'd review contracts. She'd read Korean language books at first, then novels he'd recommended. You don't have to be here, he'd said the first time she'd appeared. Neither do you. It's past midnight. I sleep better when I'm exhausted. So do I. Now it was routine. A comfortable silence that felt more intimate than any scripted public affection. Tonight, Min-jun looked particularly drained, his usual composed mask slipping. The Park merger is falling apart, he admitted, rubbing his temples. Mr. Park is demanding additional concessions that would hurt our employees. I'm trying to find alternatives, but the board is pushing back. Comfort set down her book. What do you want to do? What I want is irrelevant. I'm CEO. My job is to maximize shareholder value. That's not what I asked. He looked at her then, really looked, and something vulnerable flickered across his face. I want to protect the people who built this company. The engineers, the factory workers, the families who depend on us. But my father built Hanseong on ruthless efficiency. The board expects the same from me. You're not your father, Comfort said quietly. No. I'm worse. At least he believed his methods were right. I know they hurt people, and I do it anyway. The confession hung between them. Comfort stood, moving around the desk. She shouldn't touch him, the contract specified public affection only. But her hand found his shoulder anyway. You asked me here tonight to tell you that you have a choice, she said. Find another way. You're brilliant enough. And if I fail? Then fail trying to be the man I've heard you talk about becoming. The one who actually cares. Minjun's hand covered hers, warm and solid. For a moment, they stayed frozen, not CEO and contractor, but two people who'd somehow become something dangerously close to friends. The moment shattered when his phone rang. Minjun pulled away, his professional mask sliding back into place. I have to take this. But as Comfort left, she caught her reflection in the darkened window. She looked different now. Polished, confident, every inch the billionaire's fiancée. The woman staring back was becoming someone she didn't recognize. Someone who was forgetting this was all supposed to end. The charity gala was the social event of the season. Seoul's elite gathered in glittering finery, writing checks to causes they'd forget by morning. Comfort wore a midnight blue gown that cost more than her mother's annual salary, her arm linked through Minjun's as they navigated the crowd. Mr. Kong. A silver-haired investor approached, his smile predatory. And the lovely Comfort. Your engagement has certainly generated positive publicity. Very strategic. Minjun's grip on her waist tightened fractionally, a warning. Strategy had nothing to do with it, Mr. Huang. Though I suppose you wouldn't understand choosing passion over profit. The barb was subtle but effective. Mr. Huang's smile stiffened. Indeed. Well, some of us still prioritize the company's long-term stability. After he left, Comfort whispered. Was that wise? He's on the board. He's a parasite who's been shorting our stock while pretending to support the park merger. I'm done playing nice with people who treat human beings like profit margins. Something had changed in Minjun over the past weeks. The cold, calculating CEO was giving way to someone more passionate, more reckless, more real. It terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. Dance with me, Minjun said suddenly. That's not in the schedule. I don't care about the schedule. He pulled her onto the dance floor, his hand settling on her waist, their bodies moving in perfect synchronization. They'd practiced this for public events, but it felt different now. Less performance, more. Something else. You've changed, Comfort observed. So have you. The woman I met in Lagos wouldn't have verbally eviscerated my mother's bridge partner last week. Comfort winced. She implied your employees were overpaid. I may have pointed out that her jewelry could fund their pensions. Minjun laughed, genuine and warm. It was magnificent. Jiwoo actually approved. That's how I know you're dangerous. Dangerous. His expression sobered, eyes searching hers. You make me want things I can't have. Things that weren't in the contract. Comfort's heart stumbled. Minjun. I know. 1 year. Then you're free. But what if, he stopped himself, jaw tightening. Never mind. Forget I said anything. But Comfort couldn't forget. Couldn't ignore the way her pulse raced when he was near. Couldn't pretend the late-night conversations were just killing time. Couldn't deny that somewhere between Lagos and Seoul, between lies and truth, she'd started falling for the man she was supposed to be deceiving. The realization struck like lightning. She was in love with Kong Minjun. And it was the worst possible complication in a situation already built on lies. The music swelled. Minjun pulled her closer, and for just a moment, Comfort let herself pretend this was real. That the ring on her finger meant something. That the man holding her actually loved her back. Then cameras flashed, reminding her that every tender moment was a performance. Every touch was transactional. Every feeling was a violation of their carefully negotiated terms. When the dance ended, Minjun's phone buzzed. His expression darkened as he read the message.
What's wrong? Someone's leaked information about your background to the press. The real story. Lagos, your brother's illness, the call center. His voice was tight with anger. They're publishing tomorrow unless we respond. The floor tilted. Comfort's carefully constructed world was collapsing. Who would? Does it matter? They know everything, Comfort. Everything except the catfishing. Once they start digging deeper. He didn't finish. He didn't have to. The contract. The fraud. The consequences that would destroy them both. I'll deny it, Comfort said desperately. Say they're lying. With what proof? They have hospital records, employment history, your mother's testimony. Min Jun stopped. Your mother. They interviewed your mother. Horror washed over Comfort. Her mother, who didn't know about the contract, about the lies, about any of it. Who believed her daughter had actually fallen in love with a billionaire. I have to call her. Not yet. First, we need a strategy. Min Jun's mind was already working, she could see it. If we're going to control this narrative, we need to tell our truth before they tell theirs. Our truth. The real story. How we met. Why you needed money. What I offered in return. He looked at her steadily. Everything. That destroys you, Comfort whispered. Your family, the company, the merger. I'm tired of building success on lies. If I'm going to lead Hanseong into the future, it needs to be on honest foundations. His hand cupped her face gently. I'm tired of pretending this is just a contract, Comfort. Aren't you? Tears burned her eyes. The year isn't over. You could still walk away. I don't want to walk away. I want to fight for something real. For someone who challenges me, frustrates me, makes me want to be better than I am. His thumb brushed her cheek. I've fallen in love with you. Completely. Inconveniently. Probably foolishly. But it's the most honest thing I've felt in years. The words shattered something inside her. The wall she'd built, the lies she'd told herself, the belief that this could ever be simple. I love you too, she confessed, the truth finally breaking free. I've been trying not to. Failing spectacularly. Min Jun smiled. Soft and genuine and heartbreakingly real. Then he kissed her, and this time it wasn't for cameras or contracts or carefully staged publicity. It was messy and desperate and perfect. When they pulled apart, Seoul glittered outside the windows, a city of millions who would soon know their story. Tomorrow's going to be brutal, Min Jun said. Probably. We could lose everything. Probably. Any regrets? Comfort thought about the scared girl in Lagos who'd created a fake identity to save her brother. About the lies that had brought her here. About the love that had grown from deception. Only that I didn't tell you the truth sooner, she said. Then let's tell it now. Together. Outside, cameras flashed as paparazzi caught them in the window. The billionaire and the woman who'd catfished him, holding each other like they'd found something worth fighting for. Tomorrow, they'd face the consequences. Tonight, they'd stop lying to the world and themselves. And somewhere between Lagos and Seoul, between deception and truth, Comfort Adeyemi had discovered that the most dangerous lie was believing she wasn't worthy of real love. 1 year later, the press conference room was packed again, but this time Comfort stood beside Min Jun without fear. A year ago, they'd revealed everything. The catfishing, the contract, the desperate circumstances that had brought them together. The media had been vicious. The board had been furious. Mrs. Kong had threatened disownment. But something unexpected had happened. The public had responded with compassion. Comfort's story resonated, the struggling woman who'd risked everything for family, the billionaire who'd offered an unorthodox second chance, the love that had grown from impossible circumstances. Hanseong's stock had initially dropped, then surged higher than ever. Investors appreciated the transparency. Customers appreciated the humanity. And Min Jun had restructured the park merger on his terms, protecting employees, prioritizing ethics over pure profit. It had been risky. It had worked. Now, 12 months after their contract was supposed to end, they stood together again. As many of you know, Min Jun began, my engagement to Comfort began under unusual circumstances. Today, we're here to announce that those circumstances have officially ended. The room went silent. Cameras focused. Comfort smiled, pulling out the contract. The original agreement. The one that had bound them for exactly 1 year. This contract, she said clearly, specified that after 12 months, I would be free to leave with no obligations. She held it up for the cameras, then deliberately tore it in half. I'm choosing to stay. Not because of money or necessity or fear of exposure. But because I choose him. Every day. Freely. Minjun produced a small box, opening it to reveal a ring, different from the contractual one. Simpler. More genuine. Comfort Adeyemi, he said, his voice steady but his eyes bright with emotion. You catfished a billionaire, challenged my worldview, drove my family insane, and somehow made me a better man. Will you marry me? Actually marry me. No contracts. No conditions. Just us. Comfort thought about the scared girl who'd created Amara. About the lies that had become truth. About the year that had changed everything. Yes, she said simply. Always yes. The room erupted. Cameras flashed. Questions shouted. But Comfort heard only Minjun's whispered words as he slipped the ring on her finger. Thank you for lying to me. It was the most honest thing anyone's ever done. Later at the penthouse, Emmanuel played with Ji Woo, who'd become an unexpectedly devoted aunt. Comfort's mother laughed with Mrs. Song over wedding plans. Mr. Kong actually smiled. And in the study where they'd spent countless nights pretending to be strangers, Minjun and Comfort sat together, no longer bound by contracts or lies or desperate circumstances. Just two people who'd found something real in the most unlikely place. Any regrets? Comfort asked, echoing their conversation from that fateful gala. Minjun pulled her close, kissing her softly. Only that I didn't find you sooner. Outside, Seoul glittered with possibility. Inside, a young woman from Lagos and a Korean billionaire proved that sometimes the best love stories begin with the worst lies. And that truth, when it finally arrives, is worth every risk.